All right. Hi guys. I'm not here again today, but we're moving on to the next lesson, lesson five. Some of you guys might have started it last time with the notes that I had at the front of the class. If you haven't, that's all right. That's what this is for. So we would have already started this in class. So if you need to scroll ahead in the video to the part where we left off, then do that. Okay. So if you want to put a new title at the top of your screen, lesson five, percentages, and we'll get started. So just to start, to change a decimal to a percent, we multiply by, when I say 100%, I really just mean by 100. Okay, and you just add the percent on to the end of the number, or the end of the answer that you get. So to change a decimal to a percent, take the decimal, multiply it by 100. To change a fraction to a percent, first you need to divide the numerator into the denominator, so top divided by bottom, and then multiply that by 100 as well. Okay. To change a percent into a decimal, we write our number so that the last whole number of the percent in the hundredths place value, to change a percent to a decimal, we write the last number so the last whole number in the percent is the hundredths, or is the place value for the percent. Okay, so for example, what I mean is we take our percentage as 96%. Okay, and we pretend that there is a decimal right here. Okay, so next to the last whole number, we take that decimal and we move it 2 spots to the left. Okay, so that's changing a percentage into a decimal. Okay, so what this really should say here is move the decimal 2 spots left. Okay, and the last one, to change a mixed number into a percent, convert an improper fraction and follow part B. Okay, so taking a mixed number, we have to first change our number into a decimal, so top divided by bottom, and then into a percent. Okay, so let's start here. Many times we view or read percentages as a portion of something, and not always do they occur so conveniently out of 100. So for example, 31 out of 38 is not quite an easy one to see how much of a percent that is. Okay, so Bob received 31 out of 38 on his math test. He isn't sure if that's a good mark or not. He understands percentages much better. Change this mark into a percentage to show Bob how he did on his test. So number one, okay, change to a fraction. So we have 31 out of 38. Okay. Number two, divide numerator by denominator. Okay. And so when you divide numerator by denominator, 31 divided by 38, you end up with 0 decimal 8157894. Okay. Usually I'll just ask you to go to 2 decimal places, and maybe within the percentage, maybe go to 3 decimal places so that in the percentage you have a whole number and 1%, or 1 decimal place for percentages. Okay, so our last step here ends up being move the decimal place two spots right, or like we said above in the remember section, multiply by 100. And when you do that, you end up with 81.5%. Okay, or 81.6 if we round up. 81.6%. Okay, so in your answer, I'm happy for you guys to do one decimal place within the percentage. Okay, so overall, therefore, Bob received 81.6% on his test. Moving on. Alternatively, we sometimes find it useful to set a benchmark to reach using a percentage, but that doesn't give us a value to strive for, so we must calculate. So what I mean by that is that on your tests, there's been more than one time, I'm sure, where you've said, oh, I hope I get 90% or I hope I get 95%. But what is that mark really when the test is out of 40 or 50 or 60 or 70? And so working with percentages that way help us to put a number on a percent, how much that percent is actually worth. Okay, so the pieces of information in here are Bob currently sits at 80% in math. He wants to make sure his mark rises to 80% after his next test, but to do so he needs at least 80%. So he needs at least 80%, 88%. If the test is out of 45, what mark does Bob need? For example, 88% of 45. So there's a little bit of information here that's not really necessary for us. Okay, 88% in math, 78% in math isn't sort of important to us right now. He wants to make sure his mark rises to 80%. Yeah, that's important, but not in terms of what we're going to calculate. What we can find useful is that he needs at least 88%, and it's out of 45. So he needs 88% of 45. If you remember from before, the word of means to multiply. Okay, so what we have here is 88% of 45. Change that to a decimal. Okay, so that becomes 0.88 times 45. Okay, and on your calculator, you're going to go 88% of 45, or decimal 88 times 45 equals 39.6. So therefore, Bob needs at least 39.6 out of 45. Okay, so that's how we use a percentage as a benchmark to calculate a number, or another way to put it, what does that percentage mean in actual numbers? Okay, moving on, change the following percentages into fractions. 11 and 3/5%, 7 and 1/5%. The first thing we're going to do, okay, you see this 11 means 11%, okay, or if we change it into a number, it ends up being 0.11. This 3/5 here, okay, we have to change into a decimal. So 3/5, or 3 divided by 5, okay, 3 divided by 5 is 60, or 0.6. So what this really says is 11.6%. Okay, so 11.6%. And so change the following percentages into fractions. Okay, we first have to change it into a number that we can work with. So a percentage isn't necessarily a number that we can put over a fraction. 11.6% represents an amount of something. Okay, so an amount of something. What we're going to do is we're going to change this into. We'll put another arrow here. We're going to say change into a decimal. Okay, so changing into a decimal, we're moving the decimal place 2 spots to the left. So what that ends up being is 0.116. Okay, changing into a fraction. Okay, you take the last number in the decimal place and you put it over that same value as a denominator. So if this is the tenths and this is the hundredths, this is the thousandths. So our whole number is going to be over 1,000. We're going to put our whole number here, 116 over 1,000. Okay, and we can simplify that down. Okay, if we divide by 2, we end up with 58 over 1,000, or 58 over 500. Divide by 2 again, and we get 29 over 250. Since 29 is a prime number, that's as far as we can go. Okay, so that's how we change that percentage into a fraction. We first have to put it all in the same term, so we can't have a whole number and a mixed number. Okay, a whole number and a fraction. We have to have them all as one number. So changing this 3/5 into a decimal is important, and then adding it on to your percentage. So what this really says is 11.6%. Okay, change that into a decimal. Okay, becomes 0.116, and change that into a fraction. Okay, simplify and reduce as much as you can. So let's try one more. 7 1/5%. 1/5 is equal to 0.2. We have 7% and 0.2%. Altogether, we have 7.2%. Okay, so we're going to change this into a decimal. Okay, and what that means is 2 decimal places to the left. We move the decimal place, so that becomes 0.072. Okay, 0.072. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take that last place value and change it into a fraction. So use that as the denominator. So change to fraction. Okay, so that 2 is in the tenths, hundredths, thousandths place. So we're going to put our fraction over 1,000. And we're going to put our number over top. Okay, we want to simplify as much as we can. 72 divided by 2. We'll start off with easy stuff. Okay, is 36 over 500. Divide by 2 again, well, we can have 18 over 250. Divide by 2 again, we can have 9 over 125. And we can only divide by 3 or 9. So 125 divided by 3 doesn't quite work. Okay, so that's as far as you go. So 7 1/5% is the same as 9 over 125. Okay. All right. Moving on. Express the first quantity as a percentage of the second. Okay. So 13.4 to 9.5. So these are our ratios that we have. Expressing the first quantity as a percentage of the second. First, we're going to put it into a fraction. Okay, so 13.4 divided by 9.5. Okay, what we get out of this when we divide the two, okay, is a decimal. So we're gonna take 13.4. We'll clear that. So 13.4 divided by 9.5 equals 1.41. We'll just take it to two decimal places. So 1.41. Okay. And so what we have to do to change this to a percentage, we multiply by 100. So change to percentage by multiplying by 100, or moving decimal 2 spots to the right. So what this becomes is 141%. Okay, so therefore, the way we would read this, therefore 13.4 is 141% of 9.5. Okay, we'll do one more. Or we have a couple more here actually. 3.2 meters to 57 centimeters. 3.2 meters to 57 centimeters. Notice that these values are different. Okay, so we're going to have to change one of them to the other unit. So 3.2 meters is the same as 320 centimeters. Okay, so just changing the units. So again, we're going to go 320 divided by 57. Okay, on your calculator, 320 divided by 57 equals 5.61. Okay, so as a percent, moving the decimal place 2 spots to the right is 561%. Okay, so therefore 3.2 meters is 561% of 57 centimeters. Okay, and just finishing off here down at the bottom. Okay, in a concluding statement, we can say that, the first number is a percentage of the second number. So try the next question by writing the statement out first and representing the percentage as an x and solve for x. So what we've done already is basically what this question is asking. Okay, so writing one as a percentage of the other. This one's a little bit different since the first number is smaller. Okay, so let's just do the same as we did before. So we have 45 divided by 73. We get our calculator out. 45 divided by 73 ends up being 0.6. We're going to say 0.62. We're going to round up there. 62. Okay, 0.62. As a percent, we move the decimal place 2 spots to the right. Okay, it equals 62%. Okay, so therefore 45 is 62% of 73. Another way to look at this in a little bit more of what the question is asking. So try the next question by writing the statement out first. If we write the statement out first, what it looks like is 45 is equal to an X amount percent of, so just to be clear guys, this question's done, okay? This is just another way of looking at it. 45 is equal to X percent of 73, okay? So what you're doing here is you're solving for X, okay? And in doing so, you should end up with the same answer. So what this is looking like, X percent of 73, so it's going to be 73X, so of meaning multiply, 73X is equal to 45, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to divide by 73, divide by 73, and we end up with X equals, again, the same thing, X equals 0.62, okay? As a percent, we move the decimal place over 2 spots, 62%. Okay. Okay, so that's our percentages lesson. What I want you guys to work on, just down at the bottom, 7.4, 190. Do your best. If you have any questions, once we get back, we'll take them up. Okay? We'll talk to you later, guys. Thanks.